Hello everybody, Andy from Glass Half Dead here, and today I want to show you the Leviathan box set, which if you're not aware is the latest 40k FOMO box, if we can call it that, for 10th edition, and yes, we can call it that. So I'm sure that you already all know what this is. It's got a pretty inescapable gravitational pull if you're playing any form of Games Workshop game, or even just paying attention to anything in regards to board games, war games, etc. It's huge, right? GW sent it to me, so thanks to them for doing that. But of course I am a Kill Team channel, and so I thought, what's the point in talking about this? You already know what it is. There are other channels that are going to talk about it more knowledgeably than I am. What do I do? Well, it then occurred to me that perhaps I'm not thinking about things correctly, and actually, Kill Team... okay, so this new edition of Kill Team is not a Kill Team to 40k pipeline, alright? It is its own separate thing. However, you are probably going to find yourself ending up with a whole bunch of models that can, in fact, be used in 40k. So, I thought Kill Team has so many new players, it's a great way of getting new players into, not 40k, but the sphere of wargaming in general. And so, maybe you only have a vague awareness of 40k, and I can perhaps, maybe, help expand that for you. Obviously this isn't going to be like a how to play or something. Games Workshop has already done a really good, like 7-minute how to play, and I couldn't beat that here and now, right? I'd have to break it down into like a 50-minute, here's how line of sight works, here's how full visibility versus half visibility, here, blah blah blah, here's how all of that works. Just go watch the GW one, it's 7 minutes, right? So, first things first, this is the Leviathan box, okay? We don't know the exact cost, we think it's 150 retail, but more importantly, this is the start of a new edition. What does that mean? Well, everything has been indexed. Now, indexed means that all of the rules from the last edition have been scrapped. Now, I don't know if you've been following along with a lot of the online chaps that have going and discussing all of the Warcom articles, the faction foci, they've been coming out. Certainly I've been watching Bricky, I've really enjoyed his stuff, and I don't know the rules, but something that he constantly does is he relates everything in this edition to 9th edition. And I'm sat there and he's whittling away saying, oh well, strength 12 is the new strength 9, and so really T7 is the new T6. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whew, okay, all right, what does that mean? In fact, he's just saying word salad because I don't really know what it means, so... yeah, you know? Anyway, hopefully, I can give you a noob's perspective. I'm not going to relate anything here to 9th edition because there's literally no point, because I don't know what it means, you don't know what it means. So, this is 10th edition. How is it different to Kill Team? Okay, so, first things first, and this is a personal thing, but I really like the start of new games. This extends to like Shatterpoint, which obviously I'm currently hyped for, but also 40k. The move from one rule set to another and everything getting indexed means that everyone almost is on the same level. So this is a good time to get in because essentially you have as much Tyrannid knowledge as the guy that's been playing for the last 3 years. That really appeals to me. It's not for everybody, but I enjoy that. So, what is 40k? Right, well, to just call it bigger Kill Team isn't fair and certainly isn't right. It is, however, true in many senses. So, for example, the 22 by 30 that we normally play on suddenly goes to 44 by 60. I've got this board here, let me show it to you, hold on. Ta-da! This is huge, just so you know, this takes up the entire room. I have no idea how they ever played on a 6x4. This is 44 by 60. This can play 1,000-point games and 2,000-point games. If you want to go up to 3,000-point games, which aren't match plays, so it's fine, that would be a narrative thing, then you add in an additional board set, so it becomes 44 by 90. Although if you want to go down to Combat Patrol, then it goes down to just 2 Kill Team boards, which is 44 by 30? Yes, that's right. So, it is, in that sense, bigger Kill Team. But let's also think about number of models. Obviously, you're seeing quite a few models on here. This is the Leviathan box, okay? In Kill Team, you very genuinely have one box kill teams, don't you? There are also 2 box kill teams, but you can just sit down, play the game with a single box of models, which will cost you, whatever, £35. Retail, that is. Well, the reality of 40k, assuming that you're not going crazy and you're just buying everything for a faction like many people do, is you're going to need between 6 and 15 boxes. I think that's a very fair level to say you will play. And these can be mixed in. So for example, combat patrol boxes will tend to be 3 or 4 boxes mixed into a single box, which will give you a discount. So in reality, let's say you're Custodes. That's obviously the best example of an army because they are the smallest model count and smallest box count. You might get a combat patrol and then 2 more boxes, and that's going to run you £150, and that's your army. Now obviously Custodes is a special thing, but that's legit. Whereas you might prefer to play Tyranids or Imperial Guard, and they need a lot more just regular troops, you know? So you'll need multiple boxes which are going to cost you just as much as a custodian box, but you need like 3 of those boxes to make up the same number of points cost. So it is significantly more expensive in that regard, and it takes up more space, as discussed. However, the core idea of fighting does remain, and scoring. You want to kill stuff, and you want to stand on points. That hasn't changed. That is the core mechanic of pretty much every board game, war game these days, and certainly GW is no different. However, it is expressed very differently. So actions in Kill Team are now phases. Instead of performing a shoot action, there is a shooting phase where your entire army can shoot instead of just a single model can shoot. However, again, the core is basically identical. You say, I want this guy to shoot in Kill Team, well now you say the whole of my army gets to shoot. Whereas, I suppose Kill Team, because you've got like 3 models, right, might be considered tactical. 40k is more strategic. Now, minor note, if you're actually into like war games, 40k isn't a strategic game. That's a different thing. But for the purposes of Kill Team in relation to 40k, that is a good way to think of it. So the way that it is more strategic is that there is less feedback. So what does that mean? It's a good question, isn't it? So it is still tactics, but due to the lack of immediate feedback, you have more time to strategize what is going to happen. So when I say feedback, what I mean is reactions, but I didn't want to use the phrase reactions because reactions are kind of a thing in the book with your stratagems. So like you could perform an Overwatch and some might phrase that as a reaction. But when I say feedback, there is less feedback and more time to think. So perhaps, turn 1 of this particular game here, the Marines move up and and this has happened to me because I have played this. The Dreadnought manages to take this guy off the board turn 1, and my Warlord turn 1 because I don't know how to play the game. And like that, those are 2 big models that have just been taken off the board, right? Well, because it's a strategic game, I'm not done. I'm still in the game. I can still come back because I have time to think. And the way you build a list, because of course list building is a huge thing in 40k, you should always have redundancies. I should not have levered my entire plan around these 2 models being on the board. Whereas in Kill Team, you kind of have to react to what occurs. That's kind of the point of Kill Team, which is good. Whereas 40k, there is still a reaction, but it is more about having a large enough game size that you have redundancies in your list building, and then you continue with a plan as opposed to react to the events on the board, in a sense. It's a thing. Perhaps I'm not explaining it well. However, I would say that the basics are actually quite simple. Similar, sorry. So whereas in Kill Team, you have 1 model In 40k, that one model will be either 3, 5 or 10 models, but they're still doing the same thing. So whereas in Kill Team you say, I want this one model to move and shoot, right? Well now, instead of saying I want this one model to move and shoot, you say I want these 10 models to move in the move phase, to shoot in the shooting phase, to charge in the fight phase, in the charge phase, and then fight in the fight phase. But essentially, although they are, let's go back to them, although they, you know, these 5 Terminators here are indeed 5 separate models that you technically move separately, because of how the rules work, you could, if it helps you, think of them as actually just being, well, each one is a 3 wound marker to remind me of how things go, and then each time one is removed, not only do I lose that health, but I also lose that attack. And some people prefer to think of it that way, for sure. Personally, I think thinking of it that way makes it feel a bit too mechanical, and like you're not playing the fun of the game. Oh, I suppose we should talk about that final thing, shouldn't we, as well? The final big difference, which if you haven't noticed, is the scale of the game, right? Obviously I did mention this very briefly, but Kill Team is a very, I'm going to say, tight rule set, and is great at what it does, and it's very competitive because it is so tight, and because there is a constant back and forth. It can be quite challenging to do anything that isn't play the game whilst you're sat across the board from someone. In 40k, a movement phase can take a bit of time. It could take 15, 20 minutes maybe. Whereas me, the opposing player who was not moving, I could just chat. I could be on my phone, check my Discord, I could be on Reddit, complain, tweet about how terrible my opponent is. I can go and get a coffee, I can have a chat with friends. Like, this is going to sound crazy, but in a way, 40k is a better game to play if you're doing things for social reasons. I have found that in Kill Team, the social aspect comes outside of the game. It's, we finished the game, now let's have a chat. Whereas in 40k, you set up your army and everybody's like, oh wow, that's a cool army, isn't it? You've got really cool models. I haven't seen that data sheet on the board before, because Marines have like 80,000 data sheets, right? So like legit, people will have not seen something you put down if you put down something weird. And there is more of a social aspect within the game itself. Now, not everybody's looking for that. And a lot of people like to keep things very strict and competitive. But I think that even within a competitive version of 40k compared to Kill Team, you're still more social within the game. There you go. Hey, this is like an age thing, but like, that's actually relatively important to me. I don't really care about the competitive side of either game at the moment. But for 40k, I love the idea of putting down my army and my opponent saying, oh, that's a cool model. I like what you've done with the scheme. And me looking at theirs and saying, oh, I haven't seen. Oh, Centurions, those are a weird one. I never realised they looked that bulky. They're kind of cool, actually. Maybe I'll go buy myself a trio, you know? That appeals to me quite a lot these days. I've got to be honest. In my old age, I kind of want games to be social. And that's something I've really struggled with Kill Team. The social aspect within the game. Outside the game, lots of great players, obviously. But within the game, very limiting. Anyway, that's all I have to say. That is kind of my big summary of in what way is Kill Team and 40k different? Or what is 40k for Kill Teamers? I am going to do more with 10th edition, obviously, but I don't know what. This has been, if you want an unboxing, it's probably up on my Patreon, but, you know, people have seen unboxings, people have seen reviews, and 40k isn't something you review, right? Like, I can't do a boxed review. You know if you want 40k. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I completely forgot to do a double hello, but if you made it to the end of the video, I'd like to give you a big triple hello. Magnificent, wasn't it? If you made it all this way, I hope I have a quick 10 seconds of your time extra in that case. I'm very excited for exactly those reasons I just said for 10th edition. Not so much the game, but the cool armies that I can put on the board and the opponents I can play against. The game itself is what it is. I like that they've gone with the whole simplified, not simple, because to me, forget that, it's dumb marketing, right? But like, streamlined. I'm going to buy those index cards, and I'm going to put that index card next to my Inferno squad, whatever they're called, right there on the board. I don't need a rulebook, I don't need my iPad open, I will have it right there next to the model. I don't even have to remember it, it's just, there you go, oh cool, nice. And that's how I'm going to play 40k. And yeah, there you go, I'm very excited for it. Anyway, with that said, I should stop saying I'm very excited for it over and over again. Cool, anyway, thank you so much for watching. Stay hydrated, I'm absolutely dying. Oh, if you can't tell, the sun's out, hence the gun's out.